committee. We're here in City Hall on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018, in the first floor conference room. It's just after 6:30, so we're not too late getting started tonight, but here we'll go. With that, I'll go around the room for people to introduce themselves.
Thad Kubershak, committee member.
Joe Terry, Director of Public Works.
Jake Catnall, Alderman. Joe Zerflo, Alderperson.
Tim Zacher.
Billy Hoffman.
Kevin Keith. Steve Pickett.
Charlie Dayton.
Joe Roosh.
Star Roach.
Shane Roosh.
Jim Genier.
Sue Shaw.
Shane Blazer.
Thank you. Item 1 is to call the meeting to order, which I'm doing, so we'll go to number 2, review the draft of the city ordinance, Chapter 7, landfill mandatory recycling. Joe, do you have something to kick this off with?
You bet. So you received last week the rough draft. It fulfilled all of the items that have been discussed over the last 3 months. However, we did get a report back from the Department of Revenue. One of the things that we wanted to be able to do is provide extra service with a nominal fee if somebody wanted extra service with a nominal fee. And as it turns out, the Department of Revenue's interpretation is that it doesn't matter what the level of service is, because we weren't charging any fees in 2013. We can't charge any fees now unless we reduce the levy accordingly. So the extras that we had added in for fee-based collection, the purchase of tags for extra bags, for example, service for additional carts, all of those things we're not able to perform. Unless either we had a referendum or 2, we removed the equal value from the budget somewhere else. So the document that you should have received has a few things that were lined out, and we'll go through a few of those. In the definitions, item number 21 was the overflow tag, means a tag purchased at the city garage or other designated location for the privilege of placing garbage which does not fit in a polycarbonate or a polycart for pickup. So we've crossed that off completely because we wouldn't be able to sell those tags. Further on down under 7.03, polycarts, number 1, the initial provision. One of the things that we talked about, and this language is a little bit different than what we discussed previously, was that for a new home or new construction, initially the idea was that a cart is provided for all the new homes that exist on that given day, and that date was to be stipulated. But in working with with our building permits and things like that, the administration for that versus the cost of the cart was pretty minimal, and so we just have in here that the city will provide a cart. So if it's a new home construction, they'll get a cart and no cost for that cart. So that is included in here. Item number F, because of the costs that we would have to charge for the mobile home parks, it really isn't feasible then to provide service for those parks. So item 7.03, number 1 and F, the city will provide 1 polycart per 5 mobile homes in a mobile home park, etc. That was crossed off completely.
What does that mean about the recycling then?
That we wouldn't be able to provide the garbage or other recycling for those facilities. The extra poly carton fees is modified. We can charge for the cart because that's an item. We can't charge for the service. And so the recommendation then, there'd be a change under 7.03, 2, extra poly cart requests and fees. In A, you can see that the charge for an annual collection payment was removed. at such time, if the state ever changes their opinion on fees, it could be reintroduced, but that's removed. And then the maximum number of polycarts in the city shall, the city shall collect in a collection cycle shall be, there's an edit that two edits that need to be adjusted there. A single family dwelling would be 1 garbage, 1 recycling. A duplex on a single lot, 2 garbage, 2 recycling. 0 lot line duplex, each unit, 1 garbage, 1 recycling. 3-plex stays the same, 4-plex stays the same, and then the mobile home park was crossed off. A question that came up to some of our staff at the city garage was the placement of polycarts, when people can set them out for collection. What's proposed matches our existing ordinance that refuse and recycling shouldn't be set out 24 hours in advance. So not really any discussion about what happens after that. And so, one of the suggestions was maybe change 24 hours to 12 hours prior, and then carts should be removed from the street 12 hours after the end of the collection day. So, at 6 p.m. the evening before would be when you set your carts out, and then, assuming it takes 10 hours to complete the work, then, by 4 or 5 p.m. or a.m. the next day, you'd have to have your carts back in. That was just something that was suggested. I certainly don't think the 24 hours prior is an issue, but I do think it would be good to maybe have a time frame after garbage collection is done where the carts need to be brought back and stored properly. We can get back, to that item and these others. I'm just going to roll through these. Item F, all garbage and collectible recyclables should be placed as required by this chapter by 6:30 a.m. That should be 6 o'clock a.m. And the next section, 7.04, preparation of solid waste for collection generally. Item B, under garbage, the first one, most of that was omitted, and the remaining is redundant with A, so B could be removed in its entirety. I think that's all of the things that we saw that were really some scope changes due to the Department of Revenue's opinion.
Does anybody have a question, I guess, to start with, or a comment?
Yeah, Shane Roosh with Roosh Companies. I didn't go to there was a rental association meeting yesterday that I didn't go to, but Mr. Vallett was there and kind of had gone over a few things on some stuff. But I guess my biggest concern, I got a lot of units here in town, a lot of duplexes, a lot of 4 units, a couple of 8 units, that kind of thing. But this, I have no problem with, changing the system, how it goes, but when the whole recycling thing came out, each tenant, especially in a duplex, each unit got one. A lot of my duplexes are side-by-side duplexes, separate garages, that kind of thing. But this new system just seems like it kind of goes again, like you guys have your ordinances, you can't have the dumpster out and that kind of thing. But if I only get one dumpster for a side-by-side duplex, but it's got to be stuck into a garage, I'm literally asking one tenant to work with another tenant to put a garage in one unit, and they got to work together. Like, you got to open your garage door, every night so I can put garbage in or this or that, the next thing.
I think I can quickly answer that. So, you would be able to request a second one. Mm-hmm. You'd pay for the cart, and that's it. You wouldn't pay for the second service.
Yep. But like when the recycling came out, I don't believe we had to pay for either one.
No, you didn't.
It was just.
So the concern there is that there were a number of duplexes. Some are maybe, some older upstairs, downstairs style. When the carts were delivered, and it was delivered one per kind of residential unit up to that 4-plex on a single lot.
Yep.
There were a lot of carts that just weren't used. They haven't moved yet. They'll use one of the 4, and And so when we were looking at this particular ordinance, it's like, well, we'd like the property owner to you know, you're going to get one if it's a duplex, a threeplex, and you get two if it's a fourplex. If you want more, you can ask for more. And you pay for the cart, but that way it's for basically all the
Yep.
one lot dwellings in
Yep.
town, it's equal. You get one cart.
Yeah. And, you know, if you own 2, 3, 5, 10 apartment units, one thing. When you own a couple, I mean, this one decision is, you know, it's going to cost me $5,000 to $10,000 by the time I buy all the carts. And even with my, you know, with my apartment buildings, now I got to go get service. I'm going to be forking out a couple $100 a month for all my apartments now. Whether I subcontract it with it, you know, with Veolia or Advanced, or I go through somebody else. I mean, this, you know, it's one thing if you got one duplex, like, you know, what's $50, $60, no big deal. But when it's multiplied, it's a big, you know, it definitely is a big change. But I just, part of it is just like the ordinance, like you can't have I just feel like you're, on one end, you guys, you want to clean the streets up, which I'm all for, and make sure the tenants are doing the right thing and putting the stuff up. But on the other hand, you're only, like, it's an existing duplex, almost kind of like it should be grandfathered in. You're asking my tenants now to work together when sometimes, you know, they can't. But on one hand, I just feel like the ordinances are kind of tying us. Like, you can't have a dumpster out, but on the other hand, you're only giving us 50% of what we need to accomplish that goal without having a lot of conflict, without me as a landlord forking out $5,000, $10,000 just to accomplish something that, you know, you guys want. So I mean, I'm just trying to find a balance that, but looking back at the recyclables, like I said, I just know everything that I currently own, you know, everybody got their own bin and works out fine. And I know, I had reached out to Valor yesterday and spoke with him, and I actually reached out to my dad to come in, because reading through some of the code, he owns a parcel behind Walmart that's got 8 3-unit apartment buildings on one parcel. So, you know, basically either he would have to parcel out 8 buildings, he'd have to go spend a couple grand to have it all surveyed out.
Right.
And then on top of that, you know, you're asking 55 to 80-year-old people to either share 2 dumpsters, or again, you'd have to, you know, he'd have to fork out more money. So it just, you're just reading through some of them, I thought there was just some concerns that I'd like to try to figure out. But again, I'm just looking at it more of a multiplier just because I have so much. It's a bigger number for me, and just trying to figure out how to follow your ordinances, because that's, I don't want to have people calling my office, you know, that we're not doing what we're supposed to. But on the flip side, you know, I don't want to be forking out $10,000 either, and then, you know, to try to make it work too. It just like, you do one thing, you're wrong, you do another, you're wrong, you know, or it's going to affect you. So I'm just trying to find a balance is all. So
Well, I would suggest too that, you know, and again, every landlord's going to look at this differently, but
Yep.
you know, under the current system, a new tenant would purchase their own garbage can. You know, you'd have up to 3 32-gallon cans. Well, if you price a garbage can lately, if you were going to buy 3 cans or 1 good can, you're already looking into that $50 range. You know, a cart like this, if you were to go to Home Depot, you're looking at $100 for, you know, a 96-gallon type of cart. So, you know, as landlords, I don't know what your options specifically are, but they are something that it really is the tenant's use. And I certainly understand that, you know, when you're looking at a standard duplex, there's not a community area to store. You know, if you've got, especially a modern duplex, you've got 2 garages, there's just not a good community area for placing that cart. So I understand that. And, you know, and hopefully what's proposed in this also, there's no charge for the second service on that lot. So, you know, the cart is you know, an object. It's a tool for the property owner also. It you know, benefits everybody that way. And hopefully you can find that over time that expense is fairly minimal. Again, I don't know if you can, you know, address that with your tenants or not, but you know, it is a real cost. You know, the purchasing of those carts is a real cost.
Yep.
And you know, and again, as we put this thing together, we were trying to look at how do we try to provide an equivalent level of service to everybody, and providing 1 cart at no cost. You know, I know that doesn't satisfy, especially if you got a lot of properties, but, and that's kind of why we suggested what.
What I can't understand is why did we get all these recyclable bins and now all of a sudden the renters have more garbage and you're limiting us to one for a duplex and one for a triplex?
You're not limited to that. That's what you're given automatically. You can have up to 3 for a threeplex and up to 2 for a duplex.
But you have to pay for it.
Just a cart.
That's $55 a piece.
Right.
And why did we get these recyclables for nothing?
Yeah, we know that. I know that.
Well, right, the recyclables, it was a new program for us and we tried it, and what we found is there's a lot of places that weren't using the carts. We spent a lot of money purchasing additional
But
carts
don't
that,
you think there's also as many that are using the carts?
All my renters are using
Because
them.
I only have 4 in town,
sure.
but I'm thinking probably 2 of my people will get along, current renters, will get along enough to share. The other 2 already don't get along, so it'll be a problem. To me, it seems like you're plowing one side of the street, not the other. You're favoring one tenant versus having 2 tenants in that building.
Right, but I mean, you're not gonna have to pay for additional service. It's just one time for the cart. That cart should last 10, 15 years. It shouldn't be a major investment.
I think
for-
what we're saying is we shouldn't have to pay it all if it's a
No.
duplex. That it should be equal treatment, instead of plowing one side of the street.
The treatment is for the property owner, the parcel. It doesn't matter if you can have 100 people living there, but it is not fair that you have, so it goes by parcel.
I agree
Then
with
you
you.
get
I
one
own
free
an
per
older
parcel.
duplex, 2-story, and there's no garage, so the can sits on the side of the building, and they share it.
Sure.
And it works good, but I also got the newer ones, and I
And you
agree
need
with
2.
Shane,
Yep.
they're not gonna open their door and let the other people use their garbage
Right.
cans, so somebody's gonna go without garbage disposal. So I think the city should provide those cans initially, and if they get stolen or broke, I'll be glad to replace it.
That's my feeling too. Every family or every unit should have their own garbage bin.
Every
And
resident
that
number.
we shouldn't have to pay for those. You're penalizing us.
Well, but if we're providing more than 1 per lot, we're penalizing all the single-family homes that have to subsidize purchasing more for some other lots.
But you're really not doing nothing else, because when you have the individual cans, each side put their cans off the road anyway, so you're doing the same thing, you
You
just
have
don't
to
gotta
pay
get out
for
the truck.
And they'll still get that collection service, right? I mean, it's,
But you're only giving us 1 can to start with, and I feel you should give us enough to supply the building. Especially on a duplex, anything above, I can see where it could be an issue, but a duplex, I think it's doable.
Now, you guys are talking about individual lots. Mine might be a little strange in some of them here. I've got one whole city block that's got 8 buildings on, and they're 3 units. There's just one lot. So you tell me that either you won't pick it up because it's one lot, or I have to have it all subdivided in the 8 individual lots, and then you'll pick it up.
correct.
But they're all individual buildings now. It's just like, just a fake line there, but,
Yeah, so that's,
they all each got the individual addresses.
there may be some places where the city staff has not been collecting properly, but that's actually not any different than the current ordinance.
Because I've got buildings on one side of town and buildings on the other side of town that have their own individual lots are next to each other, just like they over there off on Wood Rock. You'll pick them up because they're individual lots now. They're same buildings, but they're individual lots there, but they're side by side over there too. Just like they are in Wood Rock.
Yeah, and if it's on, there may be multiple parcels on a lot. Some have done that for tax purposes, so each, it's a condominium style.
So what's my tax burden on, if you're not gonna pick it up on, say Rosewood, what's my tax burden that I wouldn't have to pay then? Or I still gotta pay it?
Yeah, your tax bill's your tax bill.
Still gotta pay for the garbage pickup no matter.
Right.
if they-
Yeah, if it's multifamily, if it's more than 4 dwellings on a single lot, then all of those will have to contract that service.
So what do I got? So I have to go get that subdivided up, 8 individual lots, and then it's good to go.
If it's 4 units or less on a lot, yeah.
1 unit, 3, it's 1 unit on every lot. That's all it is really now, just that it's never been divided up. No sense, I didn't want to spend the money dividing the lots up when we
Sure.
took a whole city block and built 8 buildings on it, just run, loopy go.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid collection from
You're
the
not,
larger commercial establishments.
you're not though. There's 1 building per lot there. It's just not
Per
marked.
lot?
There's 1 building per lot now, but there's one big, huge lot, whole city
Oh,
block.
1 lot then. So there's 8 buildings.
8
on
buildings
one lot.
on each lot, yeah. But they're
you
not
said
marked
it's
that
one
way.
lot.
What's that?
Well, you said it's on 1 lot.
One block.
1 block, but there's 1 city block. There's 8 buildings in 1 city block.
Yeah, that's
Is
more than
that
4
one
dwelling
piece
unit
of
area.
property? That 1 block is 1 piece of property?
Yeah.
One parcel.
Okay, so there's 1 lot,
Parcel.
1 parcel.
So what you're
one
telling me,
parcel.
I have to go get it all subdivided up?
I wouldn't recommend that because I think you will find that you're getting advantages by having all of that on 1 parcel with your taxes.
That's why I did it.
Careful
So
what
now
you
you,
work- Exactly, so you can't
So what do we
have
do
it
with the garbage
both
then?
ways.
so then I'd have to hire a different garbage company to come pick it up?
You shouldn't be
Shouldn't be getting it now.
getting it now. I'm not sure how.
Right, that-
how
our-
far-
I've had the building since 2005.
Yeah, our ordinance right now prohibits
Yeah,
that.
it's
So you were getting a
multifamily.
service that you shouldn't have gotten.
I'm paying taxes on it.
Yeah, but so is a industry or a commercial business too.
These-
Didn't you just say that you had a cutoff date for new homes, but you changed that? Anybody? with-
That's what's proposed. So
Yes.
for recycling, the ordinance that's currently in effect had a cutoff date, and that's in the ordinance, so that any request for a cart after that date, the individual would pay for the cart.
Okay.
Again, it was because to finance the recycling cart, the city dipped into funds that were set aside for replacing street equipment, to the tune of $300,000. And so, that there's not the ability for the city to continue to replace its equipment
I think,
and continue to fund carts at no cost. So that was the objective at that time.
again, I think if the city's gonna implement this, they should, no more than a duplex, but each address should get a can at the city's cost.
See, and for me, it isn't gonna hurt me like it's gonna hurt Shane, but to me, it's just part of a larger puzzle. We talk about economic development, we talk about encouraging growth and sustaining what we have and fixing things up. It seems like every year I come to these meetings, and by the way, none of my friends I encourage to be landlords, none of them will buy investment property. None of them. And they said, it's such a pain, and why can you do that? And I said, well, we were providing a service, but every year we come in and it seems like it's not a matter of can we, because you can do what you want, but should you?
Sure.
Because it certainly isn't friendly to try to provide this service here. And it seems like every year there's something chipping away on that desire to provide this service to people, And it's not $220 ain't gonna kill me, but it's just another $220. And it seems like for something that you could provide to find a way to get out of it, it's just not friendly, And I don't think I'm ever asking for special treatment when I come in here. I just ask for the city to work with me. And I don't usually feel that way. And this is just another example of that.
Is the city gonna pick up my recycling over there anymore? If they can pick up?
If this passes, no. Right, and actually, if it doesn't pass, no. That's already a prohibited activity.
Because they already brought the cans over there.
Yeah, that was a mistake. That was an error.
And I guess just out of curiosity, does Point or is there other municipalities that are they requiring landlords to buy the additional can for duplex and stuff? Is that, if I call them up, that's exactly how they do it?
Yeah, we did model a lot of our activity from the city of Oshkosh, and that's how they do this as well.
How about but Marshfield and Point, Plover, people that are within 60 miles of rapids, is it?
Yeah, I think you could call a number of them, and you'd find some
Okay.
nuanced differences, and some have contract service, where all of the service is contracted.
Yep.
There aren't a lot of communities that still provide the service internally, but we did run the numbers, and it's substantially
Cheaper.
It's substantially cheaper.
And kind of to touch over with what he said too, like I said, I'm not saying all my property by any means is the best of the best. I have the lower end stuff, and I do have the nicer stuff, but just to, kind of touch on what he, and not to talk about my dad's stuff or whatever, but, if you ever have opportunity to drive over by Rosewood and see what he has for rental property in this town, it's not your everyday, it's not 98% of anything else you see in this town. It's well kept, and I would think landlords like that are the ones you're gonna wanna keep in this town to keep the properties. I mean, there's never a piece of grass that's out of shape over there. I mean, they are the best of the best. So I mean, I agree with him 100%. I think there definitely could be some give and take, at least to some extent, to maybe work together on a little bit more, but I guess I've pretty much said everything that I need to say for tonight, but, so.
I have another concern. I would like to see the city, I know you guys don't want another job, but deal with tenants, not the landlords, because we're not the ones that put the cans out sideways or backwards, or the lid's open. You need to deal with them. You have the authority. They might respect you more than they do us. So when I go to tell them, hey, you put your can out backwards, they're not gonna pick it up, and I got a letter, I know how to put that can out there. I said, show me. She put it out there. I said, the arrow says to the street. You gotta face them sideways. And all I get is static. And I'm a whatever. So I turn the can around. I try to make it simple for them. But if it came from you guys to them, and then if there's a fine, give them the fine, they might get the ball going. Instead of just putting it all on the property owner all the time.
Sure.
And if you'd probably save a couple bucks by emailing. I imagine Shane gets quite a few of those letters every week. I know I've gotten a couple, and every time I get a letter, I think, why don't I get an email or a text message just giving me a heads up that the can was the wrong
Would you
way?
like a landlord registration or something like that?
Yeah, it was, I mean, because I know the landlord association.
You don't want a landlord registration, we would love one though.
There's gotta be 1,000 units in the membership where you can just get an email. Just shoot us a text message or
Bring it up
email.
at your next association meeting, you don't want it.
When's they supposed to start it?
We want it, we would love the registration.
No, not
This will-
registration, but you
I
can
know
just
you-
have a database of our email. So,
Yeah, so I mean, basically how we're handling the enforcement right now is if there's an issue, there's a card that's placed with the card or with the can so that, hopefully the tenant takes a minute to read it and sees what's going on.
They don't.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is that the service is provided to the property owner.
But again, we're not the ones doing that dumpster. The service is provided to the tenant, because they don't have to haul their recycling to wherever.
Yeah, but it's the well.
You're
yeah.
responsible for any solid waste that comes out of your property. You're the one that has a relationship with the tenant. We might not even know who the tenant is.
But they all got a resident number, and you could just send it to resident of 641 or whatever.
if it came to it, would it be the landlord who got the fine? Or would you find the tenant if it's and/or?
I think it ends up being the landlord or property owner.
Right.
That's again where I say you need to deal with the tenant and make them be responsible for their actions, not the property owner.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be
Some people
challenging.
putting their cans out wrong. I don't know.
It's in your lease.
Can the garbage, I mean, if this goes through, is that just billed to my, if I need to get them, can I bill it on my taxes, or how is the payment going on?
So you just make the request down to the street department. If you need another card or, if you need, on the get-go. We're working on right now we're trying to create a form for all the landlords that if you've got 200 parcels, that'll list the parcel where you can select the size that you want, and then if you need extra ones, we're trying to figure out how to streamline that. So I've got staff working on that right now.
Is it our, I mean, if we wanted to pawn it off on the tenant, is it our legal right? We can send them a bill and make them pay
That's
for it?
between you and your tenant.
Yeah.
Not gonna give
There's
you
no
legal
law or
advice on
anything
that.
that's prohibited that will.
Yeah, but the only issue with that is how do
Charge
you,
your-
if you have a duplex, how do you charge one tenant but not the other when you have one?
Yeah.
Charge them each half.
Charge
Can you
each
charge
half.
each half?
And how about they want a second
Well,
can?
Yeah, and and that's I'm just,
I guess my thing of it is there's more garbage coming out of a building than there is recyclables, but you provided 2 recyclables per duplex and only 1 garbage can. I guess that's my concern.
based off that point, out of curiosity, could we utilize 1 recyclable that we've already been given as a garbage? So that we wouldn't have to buy another one, we could just use the 1 recyclable and then use.
The recyclable one is a different color, and it's labeled on the front with recycling. So we're trying to make it obvious both in color and in what the can looks like. So someone is colorblind, that they can tell the difference between the two. So, and the same thing for our collection staff. They're the guy in the recycling truck's looking for just to pick the recycling one. So
Okay, that's just a question.
yeah.
You know, you have a lot of property shame, but that, one of the options is with the landowners to, however, charge the tenants. I mean, you may think it's not the right thing to do, but,
Yeah,
You charge a tenant for a box, he's gonna take it with it when he leaves, so
That's true.
yeah, that's true.
That's very true.
if you want something, you're gonna take it with you.
No, just on my first point, it was just a matter of, again, you get, we can charge a tenant, but if they refuse to do it a certain way, again, it still comes back, so it's still, I guess, and again, I don't, and I do manage my property, I have people in my office that take care of it, so I don't get the day-to-day necessarily, I try to stay out of it, but, there's just a constant, it's a balance of trying to have that happy medium with your tenant, to make sure things get done the way you guys want it, because ultimately, my name, my property, my tax number is the one that's getting penalized, whether it's with water or anything else. So just trying to find what's gonna work, I guess, is, so I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. And like I said, I just own a lot of duplexes. I mean, shame on me for building them, but, I just have a lot of duplexes in this town. That's,
Understandable.
just a lot of them, so, but.
I agree with some of these though, that I would like to see the tenants or the person who's doing the violation being held accountable. We do have an ordinance control officer that does follow up on things. And especially if it's a habitual person, then I think you were saying that, I think a conversation with the ordinance control officer is gonna hold a little more water maybe, that they could be penalized.
It came to light for me because I had a gal in Port Edwards who was refusing to mow her grass. She was too good to mow her grass. So they sent me a citation. So I went down to the police department. The gal said, well, is it in your lease? I said, yeah. And then they rescinded my citation and reissued it to her. I mean, because why would she mow her grass if I'm gonna get fined for it? I mean, if she's not impacted by it, why would she care?
Ultimately, I also agree as a property owner, you have some responsibility because it is your business.
Sure.
But I do think that, I agree that, like she said, his staff probably sees a few of those letters and, I don't understand. The only way they're gonna learn is if they're gonna be talking to an ordinance control officer, and maybe that's all it might take, and we have one on staff already. I'd just like to see them a little more involved.
I would like to second that.
Mm-hmm. And it's gonna be a learning process.
Whether they live in my building or anybody else's building, it's just saying wherever they go, so they need to.
Yeah, cause it might be yours 1 year, and it might be changed the next year, and if we can get that corrected earlier, then maybe Shane won't have to deal with it.
I go over there, put their garbage out and put their cans back because they don't do it. And I shouldn't have to do that, but I do it just because it should be done.
Jim, you got something, question?
Couple quick things. I don't own rental property, but I feel for them. To me, if the post office issues a building an address or 2 addresses or what have you, each address should be a separate entity. I know it's one property, but according to the US government or the post office, there's separate entities. And that's my thought on that. My next thought is, I don't believe that there could be a vote on this tonight because the agenda refers to this as recycling. You're not talking recycling here, you're talking about garbage.
It says landfill, landfill waste recycling, doesn't it?
That's a play on words, or this room would be swamped with people
Yeah, I think it's,
because of what that you have, or the way that you had this phrased.
so we're looking at chapter 7, the whole chapter, and that's exactly how it's shown in,
But that's not what you're talking about.
yeah, we're talking the whole chapter 7, solid waste and
And
recycling.
recycle.
It's not phrased right in the agenda, it's recycling, and you shouldn't be going to vote on this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else?
Yeah, he made a good point there about each individual, the post office, each individual unit has, mine over there on Woodrock has their own numbers. It's not like one lot and one address. There's 24 different addresses there.
Well, we don't send 24 different tax bills to you. I mean,
No, just
the
one big
address
one.
doesn't really have anything to do with it.
My
I mean, I
tax bill
understand
says
your-
2811 and 2813 on my duplexes.
That is true.
Right, and
That's
it's one
two
parcel.
addresses.
And
I
our
guess my
tax,
thing
our
is-
tax bill has every number listed on it. One parcel, but every address listed on it.
I guess my thought is if you gave a recycle bin per address, you should give a garbage can per address. That is my opinion. So why is it right for recyclable to give one per address but not a garbage can per address?
Well, and that was
Why
our
is it right
mistake.
for one can?
Right, I mean, that's, we did that, and we found that there's an awful lot of cans that still have that little plastic bag zip tied to the handle that hasn't moved in 3 years.
I put one of those cans in my basement because they didn't need them both. Can I trade that in, a recycling can or a garbage can? Brand new.
They didn't take that bag off because they didn't need that sticker, that placard to get into the thing for their lawn stuff, because they don't take care of the lawn.
Right. Right, so that's really the reason why we, looked at doing one per, and then if you want additional one, you can ask for the additional one, you get the service for free, you're just paying for the card, that's all. And it's an actual physical item that costs money, right? I mean, it's not like you're paying for the service, you're not paying for the tipping fees for the materials in the cart, you're paying for a physical item. Well, it belongs to the city. If your parcel's gonna have one, and if you want an additional one, you pay for the second one. If you're in a threeplex, if you need a third one, you pay for the third one. It's one time. It's a 10 to 15 year investment for $56 or $58.
I know, but every time there's an issue when it comes to landlords, they always tell us that's the cost of doing business. And we eat the cost. This is your business. You started it. So you should pay for those initial cans.
And we'll bring back the ones people don't use.
You can certainly bring back the ones that people don't use.
It seems like there's always the landlord that gets hit with everything. Waterworks and lighting, city, we have no incentive to continue.
And you wonder why this town
And
don't
we're-
grow. People don't build here because of the shit like this. I do business in half the state, and there's stuff that goes on in other cities that you can see why they're building. Around here, people are running out the door as fast as they can get here.
At your other cities, do they pick up all your garbage and all your?
I don't know. I don't have no renters up, but I do,
Oh, okay.
I'm in the
I thought you
construction
meant-
business
okay,
that,
sure, yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
half the state I do work in, and I see a lot of stuff going on in cities and development, and all I've ever heard around this town, who wants to build here? Because nobody wants anybody in here. And I tried building stuff on the river here, tried to buy some property, and, well, I'm sure you got some comments about Mrs. Mead, but, you know, she won't let you build anything around this town. You know, without her saying something. And you wonder why this town, all we got is, you know, no growth here, really. Look around, what's getting built here besides the YMCA, and they just going into an old wall that didn't succeed because there's nobody supporting it.
Committee then, do you have any?
I just don't feel like we should have to pay for the mistake as far as the recycling bins, and now we have to pay for the garbage bins. The garbage is the most important because there's a lot more garbage than there is recyclables. And that wasn't our mistake, getting all these recyclable bins.
Well, is there a motion tonight to?
Says just a review, I don't think.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm looking
Well,
at. That's what I'm looking at.
It's a review, and we're hoping to take action before the December council meeting, if at all possible, because we're trying to get the letters out and prepared so that we can begin implementing the program. It's gonna take some time to get the carts out. We wanna get the letters out, notified, because we've got several classes of property owners that we're addressing letters slightly differently. So we've got, you know, commercial businesses, we have the multifamily residential, the single family residential, and industry. So before we instruct people on how the program's gonna work, we need to know legislatively how the program needs to work, so we can get those communications out, so when we start deliveries this winter, we're prepared. As people ask questions, we're prepared to answer them. So we don't want to delay too long because
No, the only thing is that I look over this, it says review, and I guess that's what we're doing for now anyway.
would we
But
want to
we could have
schedule
a
another meeting on
before the
Monday then?
council meeting, or that night, or the night before, whatever.
I mean, it is an agenda item. You can certainly take action. I mean, our city attorney's here. It says Chapter 7 landfill mandatory recycling. I don't think there's anything in the or in the agenda that would prohibit action.
Absolutely. I mean, at the last meeting, you said, I gave you the ordinance, okay, what we need to do. We talked about having to approve it, hopefully in the December council meeting, so that's why you said another meeting here. So I think that was, the intent was to, you know, review it and pass something to go to the council on at the December meeting, so, over whenever you want to do that.
Just want to make sure.
How do we get a copy of that, Chapter 7? How can we
proposed?
get a copy of the Chapter 7?
You can just call me. Just call the Public Works Department tomorrow, and I can get you a copy.
Okay.
I think we sent a few draft copies out to some folks already that had asked.
Is
That would be
that
part of
new
the council
20,
agenda.
40 unit over there by Lincoln High School, has that got its own dumpster for everybody to haul stuff to? Okay.
What are we doing with trailer parks?
I was gonna just ask that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be providing service. We'd have to let them know they'd have to do the same thing as the multifamilies. They'd have to do a community collection there with contract service.
And that's with apartment buildings also?
Correct.
think I saw an apartment building with, in my area with, some recycling bins out in front. So are we collecting some currently and we're gonna be stopping that?
So we were doing a few on a trial basis, just to see if it worked. And the areas that we tried, it isn't working. We're just really challenged with compliance. And that particular complex knew that they were a test to see if we could make it work. So I had actually expected that they might make it work. Yeah, so there are a few locations where we'll end up having to collect some recycling carts that we already have, because like the mobile home parks, for example. And those we propose that if they paid any fees for those carts, because that's what's proposed here is what they did for recycling. It was 1 cart per 5 mobile homes, and then any extra they were paying for. And some of the parks, the park landlord paid for the carts. So we're proposing that anyone that paid for carts that has to have them removed will be reimbursed the full amount that they had to pay.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure everything's consistent.
Right.
Always harp on consistency and fairness. But
Yep.
Well, again, I would just like to see duplexes with 2 addresses be issued 2 cans. And I would also like I said before, work with the tenants more than the landlords, the property owner.
I do note that in the proposed language under enforcement of provisions and penalties under section 717, paragraph 2, it does say, if the owner, occupant, or lessee of any premise shall neglect or refuse to clean up and remove from the premises any solid waste when ordered to do so, the owner, occupant, or lessee shall be liable. So it gives options for enforcement. At the end of the day, if it's not taken care of, I mean, the buck always stops with the landlord eventually.
Exactly. You know who's gonna go directly up the mats. It's not gonna be that tenant.
But there is a provision in here that holds the tenant also responsible.
Well, committee, do you want to take action tonight? I'm myself willing to do so.
yeah, that's probably.
The attorney says we're okay with the review part, so.
Yeah. Yeah, my issue was with the enforcement, making sure that the leasee would be at least consulted and try to rectify the situation that way before going after the landlord. But I'm not comfortable with providing 2 for duplexes, because then Mr. Rouge should get 3 for 3. Kind of where does it stop? You know, where, you know, if we would do 1 for each of the duplexes, then Mr. Rouge should have 3 at his 3 triplexes. And so I guess we have to. I'm in favor of the 1 per parcel just for that reason, because you can't do 2 for 1 and only 1 for another.
Okay, can I put that can in front of my garage between the 2 garage doors and they just sit there?
So you can't store the
Is it
carts
an ordinance?
in the street yard. You could store it behind the house or alongside the house.
These are elderly tenants
in
and
the-
they're
in
not
view.
gonna drag these cans around the building. Can I put it between my 2 garage doors in front? And they can both throw the garbage in it when they want to?
You probably could if you had an enclosure for it, but it can't be visible in the street yard. So from the front of the house to the curb, when it's not collection day, it can't be visible. So you might have to check with the building inspection department. I don't know if that'd be considered a structure or not, but you might be able to construct just a small enclosure or something.
But on the other hand, that 1 garbage can sitting there, that new garbage can that looks really nice, isn't gonna look any worse than some of the properties in Wisconsin Rapids that look like trash.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the reasons, though, that the suggestion was do we consider setting time limits for when the carts need to be removed back? Because, you know, as nice as the cans look and as consistent as they are, some of the public is concerned that, well, we don't want to look at these things all the time. You know, it's one thing when they're out for collection, but we don't want to see them sitting out in the street. They're big, and, you know, so they do have to be stored. You can see them from the street. They can be alongside the house, but they can't be in front of the house, between the house and the street.
I'll put mine between the two garages.
As long as you can't see it between the, from the street, between the house and the street, you'd be all right.
What were the hours for the bins to be removed from the street?
So as this is drafted, it's it just says 24 hours prior to. There's nothing specific about afterwards. As it's proposed here, I had suggested we might want to think about 12 hours prior to and 12 hours after. You know, or some reasonable amount for people that might work shift work or whatever, that the collection schedule's maybe not as convenient or something, but.
That's what I was thinking, because people, you know, are gone to work, and they work 8 hours, and sometimes their travel time is 2 hours.
Or 12 hours, and,
Yeah.
you know, 12-hour shifts and so on and so forth, so.
So 24 hours might be the better way to go.
In that case, we could leave it as is, and if it's the day after, that's when we first would start looking at these things. We could leave that then as it's drafted, if that's the desire of the committee.
Makes sense. I mean, my concern is if you get your garbage picked up at noon, well, I don't think they work till noon, but, or they're done by, well, 12 hours before would be midnight, so they'd have to wait till after midnight.
Well, no, collection starts at 6 a.m. So if it were 12 hours, anytime after 6 p.m., even if your garbage may not get collected until
noon, whatever.
Right, and then at the end of the workday, you know, we're planning on working 10-hour days.
Yeah,
So-
12 and 12 we'd have from
So
6 to 6 in the morning.
Basically 6 to, yeah.
6 in the morning to take it out, or
24 hours works in my book.
Okay.
So going back to the mobile home, what's the reason why we can't? I gotta have a pretty good reason, because I know I got 2 mobile home parks in my district.
Well, we'd have to provide the carts that we couldn't be able to charge for the service. I mean, the Department of Revenue has stipulated that. So we were looking at being able to provide that extra service for a single-family home, if you wanted to, up to 2 carts.
Do anything to.
The same thing for mobile homes, that it'd be 1 per 5 units, up to 1 per unit. But we can't charge for the tipping fees and the costs associated for actually collecting those carts. And so that ends up becoming substantial without a referendum or reducing somewhere else in the levy, you know, so that we're not levying for
Well,
it.
and that's the thing, and it's too bad that they left, but, I mean, the service was going to be part of this, because it costs money to pick up the 2 or the 3, and now that that's completely wiped out, that was the bigger ticket item. Now they just have to pay the cart for the cart, which could last 10 years.
At least, yeah.
And so we have to keep going and picking up 2 carts,
One of the
basically for $55, whereas someone like me, I can't, you know, if I wouldn't be, I can't get a second cart, and
right.
and I can't, or nor can I pay for it, and
And one of the objectives was to try to make sure that this service was efficient enough that we could maybe use some of the savings towards some street resurfacing projects, and that some of these additional a la carte fees, only if the property owner wanted to, it's not a requirement. But given that levy limit interpretation by the Department of Revenue, you know, we're just not allowed to do that. They're not viewing it as this is extra service. They're viewing it as you weren't charging a fee for your garbage collection service. You can't start, no matter if you increase the level of service, or, I mean, you could, anyway, it
That's
wasn't
what I'm
disappointing.
a little bit worried about, Joe, is because we're gonna be completely discontinuing the service, is that gonna be something where it does set us up for potential lawsuit?
Oh,
No, we could eliminate curbside refuse collection, and that's a legislative decision by the city to. And there's and the Department of Revenue has no stipulation or no penalties or anything in that language about reducing costs or minimizing the level of service or things like that. It's that the objective of that language when it was written was to prevent increases when politicians were proposing zero increased levy limits. What was coming back to those state politicians as well, you know, the municipalities are just going to charge fees then because they need to, I mean, costs go up. And so they're like, well, okay, so to make sure that doesn't happen, if you don't charge fees for storm sewer, fire, police, garbage, snow and ice control, you can't start. And so, like, for example, we had a stormwater utility in place. So we can continue to operate the stormwater utility. If we had any type of fee base as part of our regular refuse collection, we could continue to do it. We just can't do new. And but I sense your concern there because, like some of the smaller commercial businesses, we were providing a level of service for them. But to be consistent for all of the commercial businesses, we're proposing to no longer provide any level of service for those. So we're going to get some. I mean, I've already talked to some small business owners that have 1 or 2 bags of garbage every week that have come up and expressed some concern already. We'll be addressing whatever it is that the decision is. We'll be addressing that in an information letter. And when those go out, we expect to field a number of calls. Any type of change is challenging.
The one thing that I'm looking at is this is just a smaller cross section of the whole city operation as far as collecting garbage. But the reason why I have the concern or bringing up the concern is you're right, when the legislature created those levy limit laws, it was designed so that the taxpayer themselves wasn't continuously being charged or nickel and dimed or the levy increasing or whatever it was. It was designed to almost kind of cap what expenditures are as far as they're city related or municipal related for property owners. Hypothetically, what would happen if we had completely removed garbage pickup totally, and then in the guise of now the residents are going to have to pay for their own garbage service, but we're still going to retain the whole levy amount that we did, and we're going to propose we're going to spend it on roads or parks or whatever. I thought that there was a case study that had went to terms with that, and that was struck down. So I don't know.
You mean that they said that the municipality could not do that?
Correct. The Department of I don't know where it went, but I thought that the Department of Revenue said, guess what? We're going to reduce the guy's levy by the amount that and whether it was an arbitrary number or whether they figured it out, but there's that element where you can't do that. You can't even, and it's a reverse one. It isn't charging more fees for the exact same services to circumvent the levy limits. It's the opposite way of reducing services. And granted, with like snow removal or whatever, the city's got to kind of provide it. There's very little times where, or if any, where there's private sector competition, but garbage removal is something that does have private sector competition. So like I said, I'm not necessarily bringing this up because I'm dissatisfied with the ordinance. Whatever it is, go on, and we'll do whatever. But and I hate to use the word precedent because there really isn't, so to speak, precedent with whatever we do. And for example, the recycling containers, who cares if they got delivered to everybody? That's not creating precedent. But in terms of the whole guise of the levy limit law, the rationale for behind the legislators' motives behind that, and whether I agree with it or not, I don't know. But it's a case where did we create a precedent in the Department of Revenue's eyes by collecting garbage forever long with the mobile home parks? Therefore, now the fee of the can, whatever else, above and beyond, but that actual service. And
I don't think so, because when that law was passed, and Sue, you may know better than I, they had specified the services that you are not allowed to reduce, and that was fire and police. That from that day forward, that threshold, that might have changed since then, but that threshold was set. You could reduce other services. You could have referendums to charge additional fees if you so chose. You could charge the fees, but you just had to reduce your levy if you so chose. There are things that a municipality can do. It's just not very advantageous. But to your point, the specific services that they didn't allow reduction in service were the protective services. There was no language about any of the other public works type services, snow and ice control, stormwater management, refuse collection. And that's not to say that the city couldn't charge for recycling collection. That is not part of refuse, as I understand it, that you can charge a fee for recycling. I can't say that I've asked the DOR for an interpretation there, but they were specific in their language that it's for garbage collection.
I don't know, I think we got it exhausted. If it's a case where you need to make a motion and a second, I don't have a problem doing it, but I think I'm gonna vote no as a protest vote against the mobile home park just because I can, I guess. I'm the elected, I'm elected to be able to vote, and so.
Nobody would be offended.
Yeah.
So the question I have is, if there's a motion, could it include the ordinance as it was presented this evening with the slight amendments as presented?
Good point.
Okay.
Limited on the county cards, right.
Yep.
With the correction.
Right.
If I need to make that motion, I make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
And so then keeping it at 24 and 24 on the
Yep.
set out, right?
Yeah.
Changing that, and then the 6 a.m. instead of 6:30. I think that was really.
And then just on the polycarbonate maximum, single family dwelling was 1 garbage, 1 recycling, and the 0 lot line duplexes, each unit is 1 garbage, 1 recycling.
What?
Oh, and you got the 6 a.m. and then in section 7.04, 1B would just be removed entirely.
Right, because I
Just
see
redone.
that.
Yep.
Since we're not doing the overflow bags, then it doesn't make sense to.
Hypothetically, what if it gets to the point where there are certain households where we almost need to have 2 recycling containers?
This is an ordinance, right? This is the legislative body. If we decide down the road that something's not working right, you can change the ordinance.
Because obviously one of the intents or one of the byproducts of this is hopefully we reduce the amount of tipping fees that we pay, therefore we'd be reducing the amount of garbage, therefore someone must be recycling more than they were before. So what I don't want to do at all is discourage the process of recycling. So if that is the case, I don't know if I would be inclined to ever increase the garbage cans or the poly cans for the garbage, but as far as recycling goes, I don't want to penalize anybody for that.
And at some point in the future, if we feel that there's demand for it, now we've allowed additional recycling carts. You'd purchase the cart, you'd purchase the service. We haven't had any requests for that, and we started this program in 2016. That said, you could charge whatever fee you found responsible. There's much more latitude in the recycling portion of the service than there is the garbage portion.
I'm amazed at the amount of recycling I have that sometimes I'll carrying over to the next 2 weeks, they'll have a, you know, where hopefully that week will be, that 2 week will be less, but.
But we are, okay, so you're not allowing, extra recycling for single family, and then it just goes to 1, 3, 3, okay.
Yep.
Right, okay, so they're both treated the same.
Right.
Garbage and recycling.
Correct.
Whereas right now, there might be a couple of recycle, well, no, you said there's nobody that has got two, correct, okay.
So there's a motion, was there a second?
Yep.
I second it.
Okay.
Motion and second to approve the,
Ordinance with the changes?
what we have here tonight to go by. What's the word?
The presented ordinance with the changes?
Yeah. The changes, what we have here. Committee, if there's no other questions, we can vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2-1.
So then when is our next meeting date? Are we gonna do that second Tuesday of January then, or?
Does that work with everybody?
Because
I'll speak for Lee, sure.
Okay.
I'll be here anyways.
Does it work for you?
The second Tuesday will work.
Okay.
You don't anticipate anything really crazy that by having it on the second Tuesday, that would prolong getting it onto the third Tuesday board meeting?
I don't know.
Good.
Then let's meet on January 8th. It'd be at 6 o'clock. And a referral list, I didn't bring mine along. I can look it up, but I don't think there's anything to take off.
And with it, with this being kind of more of a special meeting, maybe
We'll leave it alone
Okay.
and we'll address the referral list at the next meeting, because I think at that time, we can take off the refuse and recycling review, because we do have that on the referral list, but we'll worry about that at the next meeting.
All right. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Seconds, all in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 7:40. Thank you.